I am not a news tuber or a drama tuber. I will not get into that space personally. I find that it tends to sap me of joy and feelings of stability. So I'm going to try to cover this as vaguely as possible so I can talk about what I do want to talk about. Recently, a creator who, while not explicitly faking their death, let a scheduled tweet on their being deceased release. And since then, after people have been worried whether or not they might be dead or if they're still around, they were then found under a rebrand as a different creator who is essentially doing the same content they used to do before faking their death, but without the reputation of having plagiarized and stolen from other people's work. And I don't want to give in to the I told you so that many of you would likely tell me, but I get what you mean now. I get what you mean when you say that we should expect the worst, right? Because whether I agreed with this person or not, I feared for their life when I heard that they might not be around anymore. And it scared me, because I believe that life in and of itself is sacred. I could see a lot of people saying, you shouldn't have given them the benefit of the doubt. You should have just dismissed them or been frustrated with them to begin with, seen this as another ploy or cloy for attention. And, I mean, it hurt. It really did. Even if I wasn't actively supporting this person, it hurt to be upset that people were still going after them after they quote-unquote died. And then learning that I had expended that emotional energy on them when not only were they fine, but they were basically planning their next comeback. I can see why people get that frustrated, right? With the idea of opening yourself up to get injured. It's that one meme, right, of the soft pink little creature who is slightly peeking and teasing their way out of a box. And as soon as the box opens, they get punched in the face and they just return back with even thicker walls, right? To be tender, to be sincere, to offer your heart on your sleeve is to be vulnerable. And to be vulnerable means you're allowing a lot more people the ability to hurt you than you opposite-wise, right? I think there's an epidemic of callous people on the internet. I don't think it's new at all. I think this has been a thing for at least since like the early 2000s, that people have in some ways dissociated or built up such a thick layer of skin, such thick armor that they can't bring themselves to care. When they do care, they're quick to dismiss, they're quick to change and shift because caring too much or too deeply causes wounds. It's funny that I said callous people, because what a callus is when a portion of your skin gets inflicted with trauma enough times, whether it's scratching or friction or bumping or hitting, eventually the skin hardens. More and more skin builds up in that spot in order to protect you from harm. And isn't that perfect for what being callous means? Having built up that thick layer of skin to defend yourself from being hurt again. So no, yeah, it hurt. It hurt seeing this person rebrand after all that, seemingly having learned nothing. But all of this to say that you shouldn't give up on people and humanity like that. I'm hurting right now, but part of life is to hurt. Part of life is to give yourself up in so many small ways, and occasionally you'll be rewarded for it, and occasionally you'll get hurt for it. But to stop living life because you can get hurt, it's foolish, no, to a certain degree. To live is to be injured every now and then. And to the people who have formed calluses, to the people who have formed this very developed idea of, if I don't give myself out, then I can't get hurt. If not, I don't want to tell you how to live your life. I'm not going to. I'm just going to tell you how I do live mine, and I'm going to see if that resonates with you at all. I really like giving people the benefit of the doubt, because I feel like that's what I'd want offered to me. There's very little empathy on the internet anymore. There's very little trust for that reason, because the internet is so malleable, because you can present whatever you'd like. And if you want to produce an image or a story so true that it physically impacts people, it messes with their heads and their hearts, you can do that. But I don't think it's naive necessarily to still expect good out of people, expect good actors to try to interface with people. Even when I don't have the energy, unless malicious intent is shown, I try not to attribute evil, what I can attribute to ignorance or a lack of mutual understanding. I think being tender, giving your heart out there, will cause you to bleed more often, but it'll also give you the opportunity to interact with more people. When you bunker up, right? When you close those doors, when you hole up, you are left with whatever population you had when you went into the bunker. And what happens when that starts to dwindle? If for whatever reason, it might not even be your fault or their fault, it might just be a matter of two people parting ways. What happens when the people that you went into the bunker with start disappearing for whatever reason? That isolation, that heavy armor that you built up can only last so long before you need to open up again. And when you open up again, are you going to have the faculties to be able to rebuild? Are you going to look at the world like something that was going to hurt you? And those brief, sparing rays of light now extinguished in your life are just more shows of the world hurting you. I can see why that'd be a comfortable existence. I can see why someone would find comfort in looking at the world that way, because it's expected. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. If you expect the world to hurt you, and you bring yourself out and you get hurt, you predicted the future. You were a precog. And more than anything, you don't need to change. You don't need to push yourself to try and work towards anything, because it's not going to work at the end, right? You've already chosen for it to not work. And this is not supposed to be a call-out post. None of my videos are meant to be. But at some point, it might be rock bottom, or it might be sooner than that, or before that. But at some point, rebuilding needs to happen. And when it does, you're going to have to go through here anyway. You're going to have to give yourself up in some ways. You're going to have to put trust in someone and not be sure that that trust will be rewarded. We make these calculations in our mind about what's going to happen. Ding, 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 10 minutes. We make these calculations in our mind whether or not it'll be rewarded. And you don't know, but it's a leap of faith at the end of the day. I don't regret giving that person the benefit of the doubt. I think the second that I stop is the second I should be very, very concerned for myself.